In the second episode of Special Ops, Lioness, Cruz Manuelos was put through probably the toughest and most brutal test, and she was shaken from within after that. Joe had told her that she was just preparing for what was about to come, but Cruz, like any other normal person, didn't like her approach. She knew that it was a risky mission, but she didn't appreciate the fact that Joe had subjected her to such a horrendous situation. So, without wasting any other moment, let's get into a detailed recap of the third episode and find out if Cruz is able to enter the close-knit circle of Aaliyah. Joe was having a hard time maintaining a balance between her professional and private life. The problem was that Neil and Kate had learned to live without her. She walked in on Kate when she was sharing a very intimate moment with a boy. Joe reacted in an extreme manner, and she called the mother of the boy and told her that her son was with her daughter. The boy ran out of the house in embarrassment, and a disappointed Kate went up to her bedroom. Kate told Joe up front not to tell her how to live her life because she didn't like that. Joe probably could have dealt with the situation a little more maturely and not let her anger determine things. But now the damage had been done, and Kate despised her even more. Joe went to talk to Neil, and she got to know that he already knew about it. Neil had talked to Kate about all these things, and they had decided to set a boundary beyond which Kate wouldn't go as of now. Neil knew that he could not stop his children from being with boys at that age, and so he had reached a sort of agreement with them. Joe wanted to have a conversation with Neil and spend some quality time with him, but he was on a Zoom call and didn't have the time. Time was a luxury for both Joe and Neil, and it had become the reason why their family had started falling apart. They loved each other, but not being able to spend any time together was creating issues, especially for the kids. Kate needed her parents, and their absence was impacting her mental health. She had become a very different person, and Joe's strict measures were not helping her cause. Kyle needs Joe's help to extract a prisoner. She knew that there would come a time when she would need his help. The extraction of a prisoner by Kyle with some borrowed manpower from Joe was successful, and we will have to see in the upcoming episodes if it is somewhat connected to the ongoing case or not. Meanwhile, Cruz was called to Chesapeake, where Aaliyah was staying with her partner, Ehsan, and a few other friends. Cruz and Joe both knew that this was a big step and that things were moving rather quickly. Joe asked Cruz to throw the burner phone when she was about to reach the mansion where Aaliyah was staying, and she gave her all the details she needed to know before going there. Joe was pretty confident about the entire mission, even though things were moving more quickly than she had expected them to, mainly because she knew that Cruz had the potential to pull it off. Joe had put Cruz through a lot of torture so that she would get an idea of how much she was able to take before she broke. Cruz was obviously angry at Joe because there was no part of her body that was not bruised. Those bruises caused a lot of trouble for her when she reached Aaliyah's paradise. Aaliyah called a doctor when she saw those marks on her body, and Joe didn't know at that moment if Cruz would be able to handle the situation and not blow her cover. The doctor came, and he told Cruz that he was obligated to inform the authorities as it was a case of domestic abuse, but Cruz handled the situation tactfully and told him that she had already complained, and the perpetrator had been caught. She played the sympathy card in front of the doctor and told him that she really needed some friends in life and that she wanted him to tell Aaliyah that she was absolutely fine. The doctor did exactly that, and Joe and her entire team were pleasantly surprised with the way Cruz had dealt with the entire facade. Cruz had recording devices on her, through which Joe was able to hear everything firsthand. Then something happened that neither Joe nor Cruz were prepared for. One of Aaliyah's friends, Sammy, tried to molest Cruz, but she defended herself, and then security came and intervened. The next day, Aaliyah and Ehsan decided to take the party to another city altogether, and they wanted to keep it a surprise, so Cruz had no clue where they were going. As soon as Joe got to know about it, she immediately went to the private airport from where they were boarding the flight, and at the very last moment, Joe's team owners were able to note down the flight number. We will get to know what kind of challenges Cruz faces in her covert operation and if Joe is able to get more information on Asmar Ali Amrohai. Kate was in a car with her friends when she met with a terrible accident, and one of the girls lost her life. Kate had several fractures, and she was immediately taken to the same hospital where her father, Neil, worked. Neil was in the middle of surgery when he was informed about his daughter, and in a state of paranoia, he left the operation theater and rushed to the portico where the ambulances were lined up. Neil waited outside the operation theater while his colleagues made sure that Kate survived. Neil was relieved when he heard that his daughter was out of danger. But there was another thing that his fellow doctor made him aware of. He said that Kate was pregnant, and if the fetus hadn't already died because of the shock, then Kate would have a huge decision to make for herself. Kate was merely 14 years old, and Neil didn't know what he should tell her, but he knew that getting angry and scolding Kate wouldn't solve the problem. This problem was much bigger, and Neil had finally accepted the fact that somewhere he had failed as a parent. Kate was having mental health issues, and it was very evident through the kind of conflicts we saw her having with her mother. Joe was on a mission, keeping an eye on Cruz when she got the news of Kate's accident. As if getting to know that her daughter was in an accident was not traumatizing enough for her. Joe told Neil that she would come over the next day and be there with him. Joe didn't know what she should do or how she should maintain a balance between her personal and professional lives. She told Neil that they had both sacrificed their children and traded them for their professions. Neil was a very sensible man, and he agreed that he needed to mend quite a lot of things as everything was indeed falling apart. The extraction mission for which Kyle had asked for Joe's men was a success, but the pictures of the men were captured by the camera. Caitlin Meade and Byron Westfield knew that they would have to cover up the damage before it became a huge national issue. Kyle was called for questioning and asked what he was up to. The surveillance camera footage clearly showed that he was the one who was driving the car, and Meade told him that if things went like this then very soon he would become the first guy from the CIA to be on the FBI's most wanted list. That's when Kyle told them that the operative they were trying to extract was his informant inside the Sinaloa cartel, and he was going to bring 5 terrorists from Al-Qaeda next week. Meade got interested the moment she heard about Al-Qaeda and asked him if he had any proof of what he was saying. Kyle assured her and Byron that he could get them the evidence if that's what they wanted. Byron knew that they didn't want to come under the scrutiny of the FBI, so they told Kyle to act fast and make it happen quickly. Kyle called Joe and told her that Meade knew that it was her men who had helped him in the extraction. Joe was extremely mad at him because, firstly, he had not informed her that it was going to be such a dangerous mission and that by sending her men, she was actually putting their lives at risk, and secondly, he had promised her that none of this would blow out of proportion. But now the damage had been done, and Meade called Joe and told her that she was coming to meet her personally. Cruz was taken to East Hampton, Long Island, and Joe's gang had followed her up there. Bobby was on the beach while the rest of the team was on a yacht in the middle of the ocean, keeping an eye on her. They got to know that Aaliyah was soon to be married to Ehsan al-Rashidi, and they also spotted his brother trying to make a move on every other woman sitting on the beach. What Joe and her gang didn't understand was why the royal family of Saudi Arabia was getting their son married to the daughter of a Kuwaiti terrorist. Joe knew that these kinds of marriages were always arranged, and that is why she knew that there was something that she was missing out on, as the royal family wouldn't do this without any sort of incentive. Aaliyah and her gang went to a party in the night, and because no one from Joe's team was willing to go inside the party and keep an eye on her, she took over that responsibility. Joe was at the bar when a fight broke out, and she got distracted. When she couldn't find Cruz anywhere, she informed her team to step in and search her. A man had been flirting with Cruz, and he had spiked her drink, and once she started losing control of her senses, he took her to the middle of the forest to take advantage of her. Before the man could do anything, Joe and her gang arrived at the spot, and they taught the guy a lesson. Joe mercilessly beat him, taking out all her frustration on him, and left him there after giving him a warning that if he even tried to tell the police anything about the assault, they would find and kill him. At the end of episode 4, Meade came to meet Joe and asked her how she could presume that Cruz would be able to carry out the mission successfully once they went to the Middle East when in reality, she was not able to handle a couple of days in their own country. But Cruz was resilient, and Joe knew that even if she was not, they had never gotten an operative in such close proximity to a target. Joe told Meade that they didn't have any option other than to hope that the odds favor them. Cruz was in a miserable state, but she was still determined to go back because she felt this incessant need to prove her worth. She told Joe that Aaliyah's wedding venue was most probably going to be Dubai since she wanted it to happen there, and generally, her wishes were always fulfilled. In the upcoming episodes, we will get to know how Joe deals with Kate from here on and if Cruz is able to go back to Aaliyah without letting her get suspicious about her intentions. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and I hope you enjoyed the episodes of Special Ops Lioness. We will meet in the next video.